Alberta Primetime with Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Primetime. Ahead tonight, our politics panel on anticipation ahead of the Premier making a televised address this week. But first, addressing challenges in Alberta classrooms.
Our message to teachers and to school administrators is this: we have heard you, we're here for you, and help is on the way.
Help, the Premier says, will come with the announcement of a plan to address classroom complexity. $143 million will go towards the deployment of nearly 480 teams consisting of a teacher and 2 education assistants will be deployed to high-priority kindergarten to grade 6 classrooms across the province. And joining us now, Jason Schilling, president of the Alberta Teachers Association. Mr. Schilling, good to see you, sir.
Thank you for having me back on again. I've always appreciated it.
Now, the Premier says she and the Education Minister committed to listening and to acting. So to what degree does this address the primary concerns you brought to the forefront back during the teacher strike?
Well, I would say that we brought these issues to the forefront prior to the teacher strike. This is something that we've been talking to government about for years in terms of the increased complexity to our classrooms, the lack of teachers that we have within the system. So government saying that they finally have heard teachers after the largest strike history in Alberta's, the largest strike action in Alberta's history. I know a lot of my colleagues that those words fell a little bit flat because it's something that they have been advocating for years.
What do you see these 3-person teams accomplishing in the classroom?
Well, we're skeptical about what this will mean. It's something that is relatively new for Alberta. I know that some schools do have complexity teams like this that run. Okay. But
you're talking existing in Alberta
right
already?
Now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So teachers are just unsure of what this is going to do, if it's going to address the needs that they have within their classrooms. You saw the data released by government last week that said 99% of our classrooms in this province have a complexity issue. That's systemic. 99% of our classrooms have this issue, and 476 complexity teams to start looking at this issue seems like it's a bit of a small measure by what the need is within the system.
What about the window itself of K to 6? Is that the appropriate place to focus this attention?
We know that kids who have early intervention in K to 3 thrive later on in their schoolings, but a lot of schools that are 7 to 12 are also experiencing complexity issues. Some of our largest classes are in the 7 to 12 grades, and they have the same complexities as the K to 6 teachers. So a lot of my colleagues who are teaching 7 to 12, I've always been a high school English teacher, are looking at this announcement and going, well, what about us?
Who do you see providing the leadership, the guidance to guide these teams through the process? Has there been, you mentioned some teams already exist, so is there enough of a model there to lean on?
Well, we'll have to see. Like I said, this is relatively new in Alberta. I know the Premier had made a comment that she talked to somebody about the Saskatchewan model, but this is still relatively new in Saskatchewan. So we'll have to see what this looks like, how they will be deployed. This will be very much on the shoulders of school boards to staff and then implement and to make sure that these teams are in schools making a difference.
Where do you weigh, you brought up the data around class size, around classroom complexity. Where do you weigh on how the government has drawn on that information and how that could or should be used moving forward?
Well, it's more detailed than what they've collected in the past, but they haven't collected class size since 2019. And we know that the world of public education has changed dramatically since that time. We've had a pandemic, we've had an influx of students within the system, we have been chronically underfunded during that time. So when they collected all this data, and it's very detailed in certain aspects, I was surprised that the government was surprised by this issue, even though we've been talking about it with them for years. They need to continue to make sure that they're collecting this data in an unbiased manner and reporting it accurately as we move forward in the next couple of years, as they said they're going to, and we'll hold them to that. And
it's data that reflects what your members are saying back about the dynamics in their classrooms? I believe the government put provincial class size average at 25.
Well, you have to be mindful of the average. So I taught in a rural school district. I often would have classes of 38 or 40, but you balance that out with, you know, a smaller community like Pitcher Butte that had 12 or 14 kids. Yeah, our average is below the numbers that they're saying. But what we're experiencing in classrooms in urban areas and rural areas, an average is just an average. What we actually need to talk about is the realities of our classrooms and what teachers and students are facing.
I know it's early days. The announcement's just been made. Are there roadblocks that you envision coming up in getting these teams rolling?
Well, there's going to be a roadblock in hiring people. That was the #1 question I was asked last week. Where are these teachers going to come from? Where are these EAs going to come from? And that's going to be the first challenge.
And that's on the shoulders of the school boards.
It's on the shoulders of the school boards and the government, who ultimately are responsible for hiring. But this is a government that has vilified teachers for the last couple of years, has underfunded public education in a way that I'm not sure how many people are looking to come to Alberta to teach right now. So government and school boards have some work to do to repair a damaged relationship.
This is being described as first phase of the government's plan. We have a provincial budget coming next week. Can you give us a sense of what your expectations are in furthering this plan and where education lands in the budget?
Well, I'm hoping education is a huge priority. You don't have a strike like we had in the fall with teachers and parents and students saying the status quo was not good enough anymore. Will we be the least funded school jurisdiction in all of Canada again? Or will government actually act on the words where they said, we heard you, we're going to fix things? Are they actually going to put these actions into place? And the government's budget will be a good reflection of what their priorities are.
It's been, what, 3 months, 4 months, close to 4 months since back-to-work legislation, the imposing of a contract. You're in the midst, you reminded me before you started, you're in the midst right now of teacher conventions across the province. So in that time since the strike was ended, what are your members reflecting to you now, 3 to 4 months later?
Teachers are still feeling demoralized by the fact that the government used the notwithstanding clause to strip their charter rights away, to put an imposed deal into place that they didn't have to use that legislation to do it. They were put back into their schools into a situation that they had left to go on strike to make better for students. And if anything, the crisis that we're seeing in education is only deepened. And so we'll have to do some work to move this forward. But right now, teachers are really feeling disrespected by this government, and we'll have to see if the government will actually put some actions to the words that they said. Teachers are tired of listening to the government talk about announcements, more schools, more funding. They actually need to see the government doing something now.
All right, Mr. Schilling, we'll have to leave it there.
All right.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.